exactly.
do you realize that all of the men who have made scientific or intellectual advances have attention deficit, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
how could we say this is a disability when the computer that we use, all right, artificial intelligence that we're going to be using constantly, all associated with men with attention deficit.
Awesome. Gloria Vanderhorst, you are a psychologist and you've been a psychologist for a really long time, and now you've written a couple books. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a psychologist, how long you've been doing that, and we'll work up to your books.
Okay, so I've been a psychologist for 50 years, and I got here through Calculus 2. I was a math major, loved math, wanted to teach math, and Calculus 2 was a new professor straight out of Harvard. She faced the blackboard, filled the front blackboard, never turned around to class, filled the sidebar to blackboard, never turned around to look. Everybody's lost, right? Everybody's lost. We cannot figure out Calculus 2. At that point, I have a 4.0. I'm going to graduate in 3 years. I have a plan for my life, right? My life is planned out to a T, and I can't do calculus too. So I'm headed home. I'm on just on the bus. It's getting ready to leave. I send a friend to check the professor's door to see what my grade is. She comes running across the parking lot screaming, "You got a D! You got a D!" And I went, "Yes, I passed calculus too." I'm out of here. No more math major. My my minor was psychology, and I just flipped those Hummers and have never looked back. It was just like meant to be. All right. I was just stopped dead in my tracks with my plan for my life and became a psychologist. And I've loved it. It's the best fit for me.
It's so interesting that the whole subject of psychology is so interesting. When you talk about psychology, a lot of people don't think of like advertising and stuff like that, but I do,
Oh yeah.
because that's one of the biggest ways that we're manipulated on a daily basis is
Oh,
advertising. And
absolutely. We could go down
advertisers,
that rabbit hole forever.
yes, advertisers use basic psychology
Mhm.
to make advertising effective and make it catchy and stuff like that. And so when I think of psychology in my daily life, I think about manipulation.
Ah, I'll bet you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm as a dad, I use psychology to my advantage all
Hmm.
the time when dealing with my kids. And so you've been doing that for 50 years. I mean, pardon me, but you don't look old enough to be as
I was
studying
I was born
psychology for
young.
50.
Well, thank you for that. But I'll tell you the master manipulator. If you want to know manipulation of men and boys, did you know that male infants come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression than females?
I didn't know that, but I could guess it.
Uh-huh. It's true. Somehow that is genetically programmed, so it must have an adaptive function at some point. I'm not quite clear what that is, but men start out with more emotional sensitivity than women, and
That's
mothers train that out of their boy infants.
really. Tell
Yeah,
it, tell me more
don't
about that.
They don't do it intentionally. They don't know that they're doing it, but the research is very clear. First of all, mothers are much more comfortable with girls than boys. Makes sense, right? I'm a girl, so I'll be more comfortable with a baby girl. And
Yeah.
the range of expression that women use is narrower than men, so that when their infant boy goes either higher on the emotional scale or lower, on the emotional scale. Mother's uncomfortable. She's not as responsive. So she unwittingly is training that boy to narrow his range of expression so that he'll get attention, right? So that he'll
That's
get
interesting.
attention. It's
That's
fascinating.
and you specialize with you specialize in psychology with men, right?
I do a lot of work with men because I started out with preschool boys. Preschool boys get themselves into trouble, right? Because preschools are run by women. So they're even at the preschool age, they're still uncomfortable with that range of expression and energy and exuberance. So they see the boy as a problem, right? Not
Yes.
as a
Yes.
bundle of energy that you should be encouraging and modifying, directing, and using. They don't see it
Right.
that way. They see them as a problem in the classroom. So I started out evaluating preschool boys because teachers thought they all had attention deficit, right? They move around too much.
Right.
They they get louder than the girls. And so some of them do have attention deficit, which I believe is an advance genetically, right?
Yes, I
The
actually do too. I have
good,
ADHD, and a couple of my sons have diagnosed ADHD.
good.
My youngest is actually diagnosed with autism,
Okay.
and so he's all over the place.
Yeah,
And
it's
my
complicated.
it is complicated, and I try to explain to my boys as they're growing older that they don't have the ADHD isn't the disability that the school systems want you to think it is. I simply explain it to them like I understand that you have difficulty sitting and staying still and completing your work and stuff. I get that, but I need you to buckle down while you're in school, get these grades, and then once you're done with that, then you can come home and scream and yell and run and jump and play, all that kind of stuff. And it usually works
And
out to
create and invent. Do
exactly.
you realize that all of the men who have made scientific or intellectual advances have attention deficit, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
how could we say this is a disability when the computer that we use, all right, artificial intelligence that we're going to be using constantly, all associated with men with attention deficit. Einstein,
Wow.
attention deficit,
Yes, yes. And as if I remember correctly, Einstein also had dyslexia,
right?
and that also affects the way it's like a processing disorder.
Right.
So it affects the way you process certain words, or if you're
And
forced to sit
sequences.
and pay attention, your mind wanders.
Hmm.
So I totally get that. With my boys, when I try to explain to them the school system, I try to go as old school as I can, and keep in mind that I have to explain at the same time. Old school meaning you have to do this. There's no option. You have to go
Right.
to school.
Right.
Um, and being honest with them, as honest with I can as I can with them, being I don't know why you got to go to school to get this piece of paper. It doesn't make any sense to me because school is to churn out workers. That's what school is pretty much for. And I explain that to them, and I explain basically what we need you to do is perform as an adult. We don't, as parents, we really don't care how they perform in school as long as they're learning and get passing grades.
Right.
Like you had mentioned, you got a D on that
Right.
final, and that's for me, passing is good enough.
That's
And
right.
I teach as much as I can here at home.
Hmm. That's absolutely on target, and particularly for boys. There are some schools that are actually designed for kids with attention deficit, right? So that there are places to roam, all right? You might even put a tree inside. So if I want to read, I can climb up in the tree and
Right.
read. I actually know a school in Baltimore that does have a tree inside.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it is an advance we can look very clearly at all of the recent inventions and scientific advances. You'll find dozens and dozens of people with attention deficit, male and female, that are leading that. And so we do need to recognize that we're on the cusp of an incredible cultural change. And that's why I want boys to have full access to the emotional range, because it was adaptive in caveman time, in wartime, right? When we put hundreds of men out in the field to be killed off, it was adaptive not to go to that more sensitive end of the emotional range. I don't want you to be afraid if you have to run across a field with a gun in your hand, all right, firing while you're running. I don't want you to be afraid. I
Right.
definitely want to cut that out of your brain. But with AI, with all of the advances now, we're not putting boots on the ground, right? We're
Right.
punching buttons. We're not putting boots on the ground. And with AI, we will have in much more free time, much more intellectual time, much more interactive time. So you have to have access to the full range of emotions, or you're going to create chaos. Our jails are
Yeah.
full right now for this very reason, that we don't give them access to the full range of emotion. So they cannot express the more tender and the more needy end of emotional expression. So they're stuck, all right, and
Yeah.
act out physically. We don't need to keep doing this.
It's interesting that you lay comparisons for to the battlefield. So, if you didn't know, the military and CIA, FBI, they all seek out ADHD and
Hmm.
anxiety ridden people, and it's
Right.
kind of it's not a requirement, but it's one of those things. Oh, you have ADHD, you have
Yeah,
anxiety.
yeah, come
Let
this
me talk
way.
to you. You're right,
We'll use
right.
you.
Exactly. And that's so that's one of those. I didn't know that until a few years ago when I was, listening to podcasts and stuff like that. And they had a CIA agent on my
Hmm.
favorite podcast, which is Julian Dory podcast. A former CIA agent came on. His name is Andrew Bustamante.
Oh.
And he said that the CIA, when they're recruiting, they ultimately seek out people with anxiety issues and ADHD, especially diagnosed,
Hmm.
and then they look at those things as a building block to
Yeah,
build the
yeah.
things that they want, and it's kind of interesting.
That's
Um,
fascinating. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, it is very fascinating when you think about it because I was always told that there was something wrong with me my whole life,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
to find out as I'm older these skills that I have developed over the years, not being able to sit still, not being able to, um, my processing
Speak
speed,
something, right?
yeah, my processing speed seems to be at least twice as fast as everybody else on my
Hmm.
peers.
Hmm.
And when I'm doing things in my adult life, I don't think, I just do.
Uh-huh.
And that's that's where a lot of people come into trouble when they don't think, they just do. they they co- they come across an issue where they don't necessarily get. I'm trying to figure out a way to word this the way I
Well,
want
so
it.
your brain needs to run experiments, and that's exactly what it's doing. All right. So it takes action first. It's quickly analyzing the results of that action so that it then uses all of those results to form a path forward.
Exactly, exactly, thank you very much. When I'm trying to do something like, for instance, when we'll take cooking for instance.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of instructions that you got to keep in mind at the same time, and I'm pretty good at juggling multiple tasks at the same time. Not I'm not 100% good at any of them, but I'm capable of carrying
Hmm.
more than one task at a time where a lot of people aren't.
Or not, right?
And I try to when people say, "Oh, I'm good at multitasking," and I'm like, well, actually, nobody's good at multitasking because you can't divert 100% of your attention to multiple things at once. But
Right.
you can do little segmented
Hmm.
compartmentalization while you're doing things. That's possible, but you can't give 100% of your attention to multiple tasks at one
Multiple
time.
tasks. Right. Right.
So it's something else that you really that you had mentioned that caught my attention that you said we're on the cusp of a new world. Are you talking about AI in the battlefield?
Yeah, I'm talking about AI and life.
AI
It
in
will
life.
change the way that we live our lives and give us much more, what I'm going to call free time, much more opportunity for interaction.
Yeah.
And so developing relationships is hard. We're not good at it.
Not
We're
now.
really
I think
not
we
good
used to
at it.
be. I think we used to be pretty good at it back in before we had all these the screens and stuff. I think the
True.
screens are becoming a problem for the younger generation in the way in the way that we do things as older generations.
Right.
Well, like we can go out, I can go out to the grocery store and randomly talk up a bunch of people. You know, I can meet new friends at the grocery store. As a matter of fact, I met my ex-wife at the grocery store.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that I have I don't have difficulty striking up conversations with people, even strangers. But the
Hmm.
younger generations, they don't. They interact with each other through a screen, even if they're in the same room. They're
Absolutely.
talking to each other. You may not see their lips moving, but they're talking
They're
to each other
typing.
through this. Yes,
Right. They're
exactly.
typing to each other and they are missing what is probably about 96 to 98% of the value of communication. We communicate visually, right?
Yes,
Through our
yes.
bodies, our facial expression, our muscle tone. 98% of communication is nonverbal. They're missing all of that. Absolutely all of that. So think about the consequences for your brain, for your personality, if you are missing 98% of the value of communication.
Right. I
Right?
didn't know that either, that 98% of communication was nonverbal. I had no idea.
Nonverbal. Hmm.
I could guess that it was I could guess somewhere around 40 or 50%, but
Huge.
98%.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. We take
Wow.
so many signals from facial expression, body posture, movement, and we understand those elements
Right.
immediately. Our brain is programmed to seek those out, to understand them immediately. And when I'm sitting next to teenagers, sitting next to each other, face down, thumbs moving, they are typing to each other. All right. They are restricting communication, and we are training an entire generation to restrict communication. So think about what the potential consequence of that is.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, this is one of the, so one of the issues that I come across all the time with my boys is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And as a dad, I don't regulate my emotions very well. When I get anxious, I get angry. When
Mm-hmm.
I get when I get angry, I get angry. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad, somehow that turns into anger.
It turns into anger. All right.
And
Because you've been trained not to express that sadness.
that's interesting. And how do you think that we got there? Do you think it's
Oh,
just
I have
early
I have a
ages and stage?
very clear, real example, right?
Okay.
I have a 3-year-old girl. Our neighbors have a 3-year-old boy. We're visiting. The kids are playing very nicely. The adults are having great conversation. In another part of the room, my daughter takes his favorite toy and will not return it, right? He naturally tries to get it back from her. He fails. And so he turns and starts coming towards his parents and he starts to cry. Legitimate, right? My daughter
Right.
was just taken, stolen from his perspective, his favorite toy, and will not return it. He's sad. He's crying. Normal, natural. His father takes his backhand and whacks him in the chest and lands him on his butt,
Wow.
up crying, right? We
Wow.
do that to boys at a very young age. Go to the mall. Watch people interacting with their toddlers. A little girl is fussy, she gets picked up and asked what's wrong. A little boy
Yeah.
is fussy, he gets asked what's wrong. If he gives a good enough answer, he'll get picked up and comforted.
That's interesting because even I do that.
Yeah.
I don't I don't smack my kid, but
Good.
uh, as a matter of fact, I did it yesterday. Yesterday, I can use this one as an example because the kid was being a pain in the ass. And I was like, listen, I've had enough, stop crying, and either stop crying or go somewhere else and cry because I don't want to hear it.
Uh-huh.
And what he was crying for was he got injured,
Uh-huh.
and but he's a tough kid, and our reactions often dictate what the child does. So
Absolutely.
if I he's 6, so if he falls down and nobody sees him, he gets right back up and continues playing. But if he falls down and me or his mother are there,
Mm-hmm.
he looks up for our reaction, and once he gets our reaction, he's like, well, they didn't think it's a big deal, so apparently I'm going to go hang out and play some more. But if we give a negative reaction like, oh my goodness, then the tears start coming and stuff. So I think I was kind of annoyed by the chaos, the other chaos going on in the house. And I knew that he was okay, no bones are broken or anything. So I was like, well, shake it off. Keep going. But I should have
You
comforted him
should
a
have
little bit more
provided
than I
some
did.
comfort because this scenario that you described, all right, shows how brilliant kids are. Right?
Yeah.
They understand the connection, right? So you or mom made some facial expression that said, "Oh, I'm here to feel sorry for you, offer you empathy, connect
Yeah.
with you." All right. And he should respond to that message of connection. So he
Yeah.
did. He responded to that message of connection and did exactly what you expect him to do, right?
Right.
Which is to complain, to cry, to say, "Yes, I'm injured. Now we can connect with each other, and then I'll be fine and I'll go back to playing," right? I mean, he's doing exactly what you want him to do. He's reading the room correctly.
Right.
And it'll
Yeah.
only take 30 seconds to give him that comfort, and then he'll be back out on the playground. But we have trained males not to acknowledge the softer end of the continuum emotionally.
That's
Right? We are
interesting.
just trained and trained and trained. You are not to go into that territory. So think about it, right? Half of your emotional capability has been denied you. So if I can't let you go into that range, you're gonna get pissed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's gonna come out. And so I go back, I send my kid back to the playground, all right? And some other kid tries to scoot in front of him to go up the slide, all right? What does my boy do? He elbows that kid in the chest or the mouth, right? Breaks the kid's new tooth, right? And then here we go, right? We're just off to the races with
Right.
something that did not need to happen.
That's interesting. Tell me about read, reflect, and respond.
All right, so I write a series of blogs. I publish blogs on a regular basis. And at one point I thought, hey, why not bring these guys together into a book? And it is a journal. book. So on one page is an essay, one of my blogs. The facing page, however, is um, different from what you might expect. Most journal books have lines for people to write, right? But our brains have access to more than language. Our brains have access to action and feelings, and the only way you get to those is to draw. So the facing pages are blank. You
Huh.
can scribble, you can draw, you can use language, but trust me, some of this earlier information of who you are and what you've experienced as a younger child will come out on that page. So it's organized. You can travel through it in any way you want. You don't have to go from number one to number 52. They're categorized in maybe a dozen different categories, so you can jump around, but it is a growth experience that you challenge yourself to really reflect on pieces of your history, thoughts that you have about yourself, relationships, and through doing these exercises, you will learn a lot about yourself and grow
Yeah.
in the way that you interact with others.
You know what? Read, reflect, respond might actually be a good way to train yourself to communicate better.
It is.
And
Great
so what
idea.
I mean by that is when we were just talking about 98% of communication is nonverbal.
Verbal.
There's your read,
Mm-hmm.
you reflect on that
Mm-hmm.
and respond. So
Mm-hmm.
I always say to my kids, and quite frankly, perfect strangers sometimes, that we often we often listen to respond. We
Mm-hmm.
do not often listen to understand.
Right.
And when we flip those things around, it makes communication a lot easier if we just listen to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to preach that. So I think read, reflect, respond might actually help train yourself
Yeah.
to slow down your thinking a little bit while you're interacting with others to kind of read the room, read
Right.
them, read the body language, reflect on that, and then respond.
You're right on target. That's exactly what it's designed to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome that I got
Everybody
that right
should
away.
go out and buy a copy. It's available on Amazon. Also, you can walk into any bookstore and request it, and they will get it for you.
That's awesome. So any bookstore and on
Or
Amazon,
in
and
the world, you can walk into any bookstore in the world and make a request. And
we'll drop the link in the description down below for those of you that want to pick up a copy of that book. We'll drop the link to Gloria's website right
great.
there in the description. So now I want to ask you. This is actually what got me interested in this interview here. Is your next book, your upcoming book,
Oh,
and
yes,
it's all about trying to teach fathers how not to, for a lack of better words, and it's right there in the title, not to fuck up your kids.
that's right.
So, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's explore that and open it up a little bit. And what made you? What's first of all, what's the title of the book?
Well, it is how not to blank up your boys, right?
I love the title. I love the title.
And yeah, as I said, it's designed because of all of my experience with preschool boys and really understanding what we do as a culture and knowing that it's no longer adaptive, right? As we go into this robot age, into this artificial intelligence age, we are going to need to interact with each other in new and different ways. We're going to have a lot more time to
Yeah.
do that interaction. And so we have to change the way that we raise our boys. So, one of them is raising mom's consciousness that she does this and has no intent of cutting off emotional expression, but just does it naturally because she's more comfortable with the range that girls express. So, Educating Mom is one of those, but this book is about helping fathers to first of all take a look at how were you fathered? What kind of a father did you have? And what influence has that had on you? As I worked with adult men and did that in therapy, it was fascinating because you can take a look at your own father and you can understand why he responded in this particular way, why he functioned this way. And, there's a history to that, right? So there's grandfather behind that.
Right.
And as you're exploring this history, you're learning about yourself, your capabilities, and you then challenge yourself to experiment. What would happen if, when my 12-year-old daughter comes to me and is complaining about a friend, what would happen if I were to sit, not stand, right? If I were to sit and encourage her to elaborate on that story, what would happen if I were to touch her, right, as a means of comfort, or hold her as she's crying about the loss of, or the fear of the loss of? What would happen inside of me if I were to do those things? And it's incredibly instructive when a man runs an experiment with a child and then realizes, wow, I have all of these feeling states inside of me, and I didn't realize they were there. I've been cutting off my own access.
Right. And
And
to tell you honestly, one of the reasons why, so my boys always like to play, my youngest especially. But when I learned that dad gets just as much out of playtime as son does,
right,
it it made me do it more. So
mhm,
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get some dopamine and oxytocin. Let's go play,
right.
you
That's
know?
right. That's
And
right.
when I explain that to other people, it when I say things like that, like to other people and tell them like, hey, play actually encourages all kinds of things, and you get just as much from it as your kids does
Mm,
or do. And when I tell people that, they're like, really, tell me more about that. And that's, so I'll
mhm.
tell them like, hey, your brain chemistry changes
It does. And
when
that's
you're doing your handling, playtime with your kids, or cuddling, or
mhm,
anything that you can do to create that bond. It's actually changing your brain
it
chemistry.
is. Now put
Eh,
that back together with what you said earlier about these two teenagers sitting next to each other and texting each other. All
Yeah,
right. There is no brain chemistry happening there.
right. Exactly.
None
And
whatsoever.
I use that as an example because, like, a lot of times kids don't know how to talk to kids don't know how to talk to adults, and when they go out in the real world, they have to have jobs and stuff like that, and the real world hasn't caught up to where kids are with
Mhm.
technology. The kids are they're being taught from the cradle that
Right.
you have to have a screen, you have
Yeah.
to have
Mhm.
technology, and when they get out there in the real world, it doesn't exist. They don't.
Mhm.
When we go to restaurants, we don't order through screens, or at least I don't. And so when we go to restaurants, I make my boys order for themselves because
Good for
it's
you.
easier. I saw my daughter one time. We went out to eat, and it was just at Taco Bell, and she goes, "Can you order for me?" And I said, "Why?" And at that point, I hadn't been in my daughter's life very long. Um, but she was 5 when I first met her. So, um, I hadn't been in her life for very long, but we took her out to Taco Bell. She
Uh-huh.
couldn't order. And when we left there, I was like, what's the deal? Why can't you order yourself?" And she's like, "I'm too nervous."
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, "You're too nervous to order your food? Like,
Wow.
those people work for you at that point, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm just too nervous." And I'm like, "Hold on a minute. You know that that's going to be you behind that counter one day. Do you want
Mhm.
people too nervous to talk to you?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, "Well,
That's a
that's
great
just a person
example
just
to
like you,
use.
you know?"
That's fascinating. That's a great example to use to really put her in the waitress's position. Put her behind the
Yeah.
counter is fabulous.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we have a side gig actually. At night, we go and clean these clinics at night, and sometimes
Mhm.
we run into people, that are like doctors and
Sure.
nurses and whatever. And sometimes when I speak to the doctors or the nurses, they kind of they take a double take, like, did that guy just talk to me?
Right,
Because like
right, right.
normally people like feel intimidated when they're talking to people above them in socioeconomic
Right.
status, and I don't. I don't. They're just people
And
just
nor
like me.
should you, all right? Because they're real people. And it's so important that we make connections with people every place, all right?
Right.
We really be comfortable in making those connections.
Right. Now, I'm probably be the same way if I ran into celebrities and stuff like that. But I have talked to a few people that are like celebrities to me.
Mm-hmm.
On my podcast, I talked to a guy named Andy, and he runs a that UFO podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he was my first like big guest,
Mm-hmm.
and I had been watching him for 2 or 3 years on his podcast. And when I had him on, he was kind of taken aback when I said that. When I said, "I've been watching you, like you're the biggest personality we've had on so far," and he's
That's
kind of
great.
taken aback. And I said, i- i- I really enjoy this time, and thank
Mm-hmm.
you for coming on. And he pretty much said, I'm just an average
I'm
guy,
just an ordinary
just a
guy.
guy. And my favorite podcaster of all time came on my podcast, and I had mentioned that to him as well. Like, I'm really super nervous. And he's like, "Don't be. I'm just a guy. Just a
Mhm.
dude." And so that's kind of how I have to take in all of the interviews that I'm really excited about and really nervous about. Just calm myself down. They're just people just like me.
That's right.
But inevitably, I'm going to run into that big one that that I'm
Yeah,
starstruck
sure. It's
and
normal to be impressed with someone else, right? And
yes,
worked hard to contribute what they've contributed to the world. So you should be
right.
impressed.
But that what's
But
not it
it
won't
doesn't
keep me
take
from
long
talking to
though
him.
to make that connection, all right? And
Yeah,
if you're willing to put yourself out there, which you clearly do, you're going to make a connection and then you're going to be on the same plane with each other and
exactly.
talking with humans.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, essentially the one of the there's all kinds of big reasons why I do the podcast, but one of the reasons is because it was anxiety inducing. It was
Mhm.
nerve-wracking, and for me, almost get like a high by doing things that make me anxious, you
Challenge
know?
you. Hmm.
Yes, yes. And so I seek those things out.
Hmm.
And when I'm talking to celebrity or not celebrities, but personalities that are out there more than mine, I keep in mind that at one time they were starting out just like me,
Right. That's
and everybody had a starting out point, and so if you could just kind of try to keep that in mind, keep your nerves in check. Ultimately, it's just a conversation between two people.
right.
And if they don't like that conversation, so what? You're never going to see them again. Why let it bother you?
That's right.
Um, I don't worry about looking like a goofball, or, I don't worry about being wrong on the podcast, because I can always come back and correct that stuff later, you know,
Hmm.
or I can always, I am a goofball. So why would I be afraid to look like one?
Right.
So, yeah,
And so
I'm
that risk taking, that challenging yourself is related to the attention deficit. It's a
Yes. Yep.
fascinating aspect of the attention deficit that you're willing to take on a challenge. You're willing to try something somebody else has not tried and persist then in inventing something that the
Yeah.
world has never seen before, or opening up a conversation that nobody else would take the risk of opening
Yeah.
up. So it has incredible value. It is an advance on human nature.
Yeah. And if you just be honest through all that, like I'll give you another example. I was at um last weekend, I went to a workshop. I didn't want
Hmm.
to go. I was going to support a friend and he
Hmm.
wanted to go. And I ended up actually having a lot of fun and I got some new contacts and it was worth it to
Good.
go. I'm glad I went and I had a lot of fun. But while I was there, we were split up into groups and the table that I was at had four people and we were supposed to pick a leader for the
Hmm.
for the four people. And the youngest person at the table was 28 and the oldest person was in their mid 50s.
Hmm.
And I'm 40 and of course I've got all these mental health issues and anxiety and all kinds of stuff, but when asked to choose a leader, they all pointed at each other. And I was the only one that had my hand raised because I knew, like, through the conversation that we were having, that none of them wanted to be the leader.
Hmm.
And when they asked, like, I'll be the leader, and they asked why. And I said, well, it's simple. Like, there's no reason for me not to. Like, I have no reason. There's no skin in the game. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not going to lose out on
Right.
$1 million. I'm not going to gain $1 million. I like it's just an exercise. So I'll be the leader. I don't care. I'm
And
here
it
to
gets
learn.
this process going faster.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So I chose to be the leader, and I did a pretty good job. But I was honest with everybody. Like I don't want to do this,
Hmm.
but nobody else is willing to. So I'll do it. You know,
Hmm.
and when I'm like that on all kinds of things, and I didn't know that that could be like related to my ADHD.
Absolutely.
Because I'm a
Absolutely.
natural risk taker. I take
I would,
risks all the
right.
time.
That is the key, right? And that's why we have all of these scientific and intellectual advances. It's the risk.
That's
Just
interesting.
experiment, test it out, see what would happen if, right?
Yeah.
That's how
And
discoveries are made. See what would happen if.
exactly. Exactly. And I really like doing that as well. Like it really it does something for my brain
Hmm.
to take risks. And
Yeah.
like I will do it knowing that it's a risk and that will make me do it. Like
Hmm.
make me jump in with both feet first. Oh, this is risky. Let's do it. You
Yeah.
know, finances. I'm extremely risky with my finances because I look at money differently than everybody I know. Easy come, easy go kind of thing. When you look at money as for what it is, it's really an invention of people. We
Mm.
invented money,
True.
and when you play here in the United States, there's rules for the haves and there's rules for the have-nots. If you go through your life and you don't have anything, you're poor. If you just switch the way you think to like if you meet a rich person, just switch the way you think to about money, the way they think about money.
Hmm.
They don't think about money as a means of survival.
No, not at all.
And so I do that all the time. I don't think of money as a means of survival. I do have bills that I have to pay, and I don't have enough to pay those bills sometimes, but it is what it is. We're all going to die at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter. We all go to the same place. So I that's how I look at things. And when I'm explaining to people, when I'm talking to people and explaining to them how I feel about those kind of things, they're like, "Well, that's weird." I'm like, well, that's how I'm able to justify the risks that I take
That's
is
great.
because easy come, easy go. And like I made so far, I've never lost money on an investment. I've either broke even or gained on an
Gain something.
investment. So, and with the exception of vehicles. I've always lost my ass on vehicles, so I
So
don't buy.
don't invest in vehicles anymore.
That's right. So the car out in my driveway is a 20-year-old piece of shit that's leaking oil all over the ground. It has no air conditioning, and that's my car. My wife drives a nicer car, but it just I tend to make things just matter to me differently. I
Right.
would much rather take that money and spend it on a vacation
Mhm.
instead. And that's an even more waste of waste of money is going on vacation, but not for me because I'm buying an experience for my
You're
kids.
buying an experience, right?
And so that's the way I
Responsibility.
look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So tell me
incredible.
about, are you still practicing?
I am still practicing. I love what I do. I cannot imagine retiring. I do lots of other things to, develop myself, entertain myself, but I love practicing. I love seeing people change and in using these tools that just, it's almost magical to see how quickly a person can understand their history, can make a change, can discover something in their history that was a roadblock and now just be able. I tell people, you think you're facing a brick wall, but imagine that it's tissue paper with bricks painted on it. What could you do, right? You can
Be the
just
Kool-Aid
break
man.
right through that.
Yeah, I when you said that, I just had a vision of the Kool-Aid man busting through a wall. So, uh, yeah, I absolutely agree that it is fascinating to watch people make changes right in front of you just by
Right,
something that they it, it's not even that you change them, you just help them see or give
right,
them the tools to do on their own.
right.
And I admire that. If I was practicing that, I wouldn't want to quit either. But
Oh, no, it's fun.
yeah, yeah. So how would are you doing this like online or are you?
Everything since COVID. I really do thank COVID for for changing my practice because I had two offices. I had one in Maryland and one in Washington, D.C., right downtown. And fortunately for me, the leases were towards their end, so it didn't cost me anything to let go of both of those offices and switch to Zoom like you had to do with COVID.
Right.
You couldn't be in the same room. And then the advantage of that just showed up like gangbusters, right? An adult does not have to leave their office in Virginia, drive 45 minutes to my office in Bethesda and spend an hour in therapy and then drive 45 minutes back, right?
Yeah.
3 hours has just been cut down to one, right?
Yeah.
They're delighted. So if they're delighted, I'm delighted.
Yes.
You lose access to the body. And I must say that is a significant disadvantage.
Right.
So we have a couple friend, and he was asking this kind of same question. What's the difference of being on Zoom and off Zoom? And he's sitting out on the patio, and his foot is going like this, right? And I said, well, if we were on Zoom, I'd miss that foot,
Yep.
right? And that foot means something. So he teased me
Exactly.
about it ever since. But it's true. You miss what's happening in the body. So sometimes you have to just stop and ask. All
Right.
right. I'm just curious, right now you're sitting here, I can only see you from like shoulders up. What's happening with the rest of your body?
Well, so I've got a towel in my hands because I
Yes.
have sweaty hands,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much it. I like
Hmm.
just my hands, and then off camera here, I have a cup of coffee,
Hmm.
and
Uh-huh.
um,
And
that's really pretty much it.
your hips, your legs, your feet, what's happening with them?
They're perfectly still.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So that gives me really good information. about the fact that you do have some anxiety. That's what the towel is
Yep.
about. But you also have this comfort with yourself and the work that you do so that your body is relaxed, right? It
Yeah.
is saying, this is a safe place for me, and I like doing this.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm also in my favorite room outside of my bedroom. My bedroom's probably my favorite room, but my studio here is actually so it's actually converted garage space.
Uh-huh.
That the wall behind me with the curtains on it is actually cutting my garage in half,
Uh-huh.
and we insulate it and all that. And I have a lot of my favorite things out here. I'm growing cannabis over here to my right.
Uh-huh.
Over here to my left, I have all kinds of office stuff, and it's my really my favorite room in the house. So I'm perfectly comfortable out here.
Yeah, you've really personalized that space so that it welcomes you every time you walk into it.
Right, right. And the other places, this is the only place in the house that is mine.
Okay.
It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be my living room where I used what that's actually where I hang out the most is
Mm-hmm.
my living room.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be my living room until I had my youngest kid. And
Mm-hmm.
then he kind of took over the entire house and
Right.
and left me with
He's
this little
busy.
yes, left me with this little space in here. But when I actually share the space with my wife sometimes, but she even refers to it as Dad's studio or
That's good.
Ricky's studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it really makes me feel good that I have a place that I can
Mm-hmm.
disappear to and nobody bothers me. And
Yeah,
it's
so
because we insulated it so well in here, it's really quiet.
that's great. You know, we get attached to person, place, or thing,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so this place is a strong attachment for you. It provides a lot of emotional energy for you
Yes.
because it
Yes.
is comfortable.
And I've got on the walls my favorite things in the world, like
Mhm.
like up over here. I've got Patrick Mahomes. I've got Tyreek Hill up on the
That's
other wall
great.
here, and I'm a big football fan, so I like to be surrounded by things that make me happy. I
Hmm.
don't like to be surrounded with things that piss me off. I don't like like messes. Messes don't they don't piss me off, but it's very because I know I have to clean those messes up.
Yeah,
It gives me anxiety, and
that
I
makes
don't.
you uncomfortable.
Yes, I don't like to see messes because I know I got to clean that up eventually.
Hmm.
And being so, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've been a stay-at-home dad for the last 11 years,
That's great.
and uh, for me, looking around at the messes is sometimes overwhelming, like
Mhm.
extremely overwhelming. But I actually am aware of this so I can share those feelings with my wife and my kids. Like, I am
Hmm.
overwhelmed. I need you guys to help out. I need you guys to step in here. And now everybody's usually more than willing to help out. But used to be nobody understood what
Hmm.
dad was going through
Right.
because they have their own emotions, they have their own things going on, and dad's just supposed to handle his shit, you know?
That's right. Right. And
And
that is not the truth about adult men.
yes,
You
yes,
have to
and
be able to disclose so that opening up that, this is making me crazy or I'm really uncomfortable because of this mess and asking for help is critical. It makes a huge difference. So you've made an emotional shift that has a stronger connection than to the people around you. Because now they're also going to be looking for that. They're going to be anticipating that and
yeah,
trying to prevent that from escalating.
yes, yes, exactly. And I have a few male friends that I'm able to have these conversations with.
Hmm.
I think things are changing now that men kind of understand each other and that sometimes we need an outlet
Hmm.
and that we've been programmed over the years not to do these things.
Right.
And I am more honest with my male friends now than I ever have been because there's been
Yeah,
reciprocal,
there's
you know,
reciprocity. That
yes,
will lead to better physical health as well.
it's interesting.
Yeah, if you have connections, honest, transparent connections with another guy, you are actually going to end up being physically healthier, right? Potentially living longer as a result.
Right. That's interesting. Wow. I didn't know that. Is it like releasing like cortisol or
Yes, absolutely. So you
that's
did know
interesting.
that. You just didn't know you knew it.
Right. It just makes sense. It makes sense.
Hmm.
But yeah, I one male friend in particular. Used to live with me, so he used to be my roommate.
Hmm.
I can talk to him about like anything. Like
Anything.
I can talk to him about
Anything emotional,
fears.
anything physical, right.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I can talk to him about anything.
Hmm.
And we just share that bond that he can talk to me about anything as well and not get judgment.
Right.
And I think sometimes when men are ribbing each other
Hmm.
because they don't know what else to say, it causes
Absolutely.
sometimes issues because like let's just say I'm pouring my heart out to this guy and then he starts making fun of
And he
me.
teases you. Right.
Yes, I'm not gonna give him any more information.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I might even have to quit my job because he keeps making fun of me all day,
Right.
but there are certain ways that we can talk to even with guys like that. There are certain ways that you can talk to them and tell them about your feelings and your emotions and stuff without them giving that judgment. And
Yeah, you
you
have to
just find a
remember
way to
that
relate to them.
they're as needy, all right? They have a longing to be able to disclose as well, but they've been through the same training that you've been through, which is disclosure is not manly. And so
Yeah,
when you confront that, and sometimes you just have to confront that directly, all right, that they've been told a lie.
yeah,
Disclosure is human. It is manly to disclose, and you build strength in yourself and in the other when you do disclose. So, and I'm sure with this friend that you do disclose to, you can see that you're a healthier person
yeah.
around that man than you might be around someone else.
I hope he listens to this because I sure do miss him. I don't get to, he got married, which is marriage ruins friendships, I think. No, I'm kidding. Uh,
It can create distance. It really can.
yes.
And it can eliminate some friendships for sure.
Well, I love his wife. I've never seen him happier.
Hmm.
And the happiness that I see from him, if you're happy, it's one of those, if you're happy, I'm happy for you kind of things.
Hmm.
I could be jealous of the wife, I could be jealous of his other friends, but ultimately, because he's happy, I'm happy for him and I can take that in stride. And we can still talk on the phone. We can still text
Hmm.
each other back and forth. When, like, one thing that we do that's like a lot of guys, we send memes back and
Oh
forth,
yeah. Right.
memes and videos and
Hmm.
reels and stuff. And that's also communication, right?
That's right.
And
That's a form
and
of
trying to
connection.
I tell people that all the time. Like this is still communicating. Like I send pictures, you send pictures,
Hmm.
you send videos, I send video. That's still communication. We're still talking. It's just nonverbal, you know?
Yeah, but sometimes maybe you need to ritualize coming together.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
it's once a year, but it's valuable if you
I
can
agree.
ritualize coming together.
I agree. So we do a family dinner here at my house every 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And I have four children ranging in ages from 22 to 6. My youngest is 6, my oldest is 22. So my kids and my grandkids are going to grow up together. But
That's right.
but we have a family dinner every 2 weeks. I'd like to have it every week, but it gets kind of expensive feeding a
Too
big
much.
group.
Right.
So I I started this because I miss my kids, my
Hmm.
older kids, and they never come over. They
Hmm.
never call. And I'm one of those that when I was that age, I remember being that age
Sure.
and I was perfectly happy not talking to mommy every day.
Hmm. That's
So
great.
so
Hmm.
I remember that and I'm like, they don't want to talk to dad. They don't want to come and hang out with dad. You know,
Right.
dad's old and they're young and so let's do this. Let's do a family dinner every 2 weeks
That's a
and
good idea.
I tell them if you're here, you're here. If you're not, if you got to work or if you got some other things to do, don't cancel your plans because family dinner, you can skip this one and come to the next one, but my door will always be open
Hmm.
on, the second Saturday of every month, like and when I did that at first, it was kind of weird getting
Yeah.
together. It was kind of, like a pain in the butt to like,
Right.
what do you like to eat? Well, what do you like? What time do you have to work and
Hmm.
stuff like that? But when we got it figured out, now we've been doing it for a long time and it's just second nature. It's a
Fabulous.
ritual.
That's fabulous. Yeah, rituals are very important to families.
And I actually that brings up memories of my childhood and Christmas and
Hmm.
Easter and stuff
Hmm.
like that. We had rituals back then. And then when my grandpa died, we quit doing all that. And
Hmm.
it was sad. And I miss all that. And so that's what
But
makes me
you've
think of
started it
traditions.
again. You've started
Exactly.
it again, all right? And hopefully that will flow down into the next generation as well.
Right. And so it's switching gears here back to your therapy and your practice. So you're online, 100% online now.
100%. Hmm.
And people can find you at drvanderhorst.com.
Yeah, it's www.drvanderhorst.com. So www.drvanderhorst.com.
And it's just like telehealth and psychology and self-help and stuff like that.
It is definitely individualized and couples therapy. That's my focus now. So,
Okay.
adolescent through aging adults are the clients that I serve. I use internal family systems, which is a fascinating approach to understanding how our brains hold information and how they function and how we can be released from habits, routines, fears, anxieties, experiences of depression, because those are based on the history that has accumulated since my birth. And so when I can understand that history, I can have a different relationship with it. So it is
Yeah.
a marvelous tool. And I also use emotion focused therapy, which is designed for couples and
Okay.
has proven incredibly effective because it looks at couples in exactly the same way that internal family systems looks at individuals, that you're made up of a variety of parts. And sometimes the way that you're functioning clashes with the way that your spouse is functioning. And when you can understand that, you can make choices. So it's
Yeah.
opening people up to understanding that we have flexibility, we have choices, we can change the way that we function, and we can understand why we've developed this particular thought process. All of our thought processes have a history to them.
Yeah.
And if I can understand the history, then I can manage that history. I can choose to keep it or I can
Right.
modify it.
Right. And so is it just you at this practice?
It's just me. Hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm looking at your website right now. It's very nice and welcoming.
Good.
And so you know what? I think this is a perfect a perfect place to leave this conversation. I think we've covered quite a bit. And let me ask you one more time the names of your books and where to find them. Like I know the one's not done yet,
Yeah,
but
so you can find Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of growth and change on Amazon, or you can walk into any bookstore in the world and ask them to order it, and they will get it for you. And it is well worth investing in because it will make some significant changes in the way that you experience yourself.
and your
And
upcoming book,
the upcoming book is basically how not to fuck up raising your son.
I love it. I love it.
And I expect to have it on the shelf by the end of this year. So you can look for that.
Awesome. And one more time, the name of the website is www.drvanderhorst.com.
That's
And
right.
that you can go get secure personalized virtual counseling for adults, couples, and families. And we're going to link all that stuff in the description down below.
That's
Gloria,
great.
you got anything else you want to share?
Know that I just enjoy the work that I'm doing. I'd be happy to help anybody who's listening and watching.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, Gloria, when you're done with that second book, why don't you reach out to me and we'll have you back on.
Okay, that's
That'd be
great.
awesome. We can discuss your first book because I'll probably pick it up by then, and then we can discuss your second book.
That's great. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, hang out with me for just a moment, Gloria. We'll let
Okay.
all these people go. Bye, everybody.